I'm Doug from FirstTech. In today's segment of myFirstech Academy, we're going to be talking about relay wiring. So we're going to go over a few different options as far as how to either build a harness or obtain a harness for the relay. We're also going to talk about some fairly common relay wiring setups. So first of all, we will look at a basic single pole, single throw relay. So you'll notice that this relay right here has 4 pins. Instead of the traditional 5, you'll see the center pin, 87A, is missing. So this is one of the relays that you, in the past, would have gotten with the old 6200 brains that we had to use for inverting polarity. So what we're going to do is I'm going to show you on this relay, which comes with a pre-wired harness with the 4 pins already populated. This would be to invert polarity. So when I say invert polarity, I mean you're going to take a negative signal in this case. So the purple wire is attached to pin 85. So that's what you see here. And then pin 87 has a constant 12 volt fused source, and that's tied in with pin 86. So that's also a 12 volt constant source on pin 86. So basically what you have is you have 12 volts feeding into the relay, into pin 87, also into pin 86, which pin 86 is one side of the coil that we looked at in the last segment. Pin 85 would be your ground signal, which is going to trigger that coil, trigger the relay, which in turn touches pin 87 to pin 30, which is our blue wire, and gives you a positive output because you've got positive 12 volts coming in here. When it sees a negative signal here, so you're taking your negative signal, triggering the relay and turning it into a positive signal coming out of the blue wire. So 12 volt in, ground trigger, 12 volt out. That's how you invert polarity. It's very, very simple. So you can do that same thing if you build your own relay harnesses. You'll notice here that I have a 5-pin relay, single pole double throw relay, SPDT. If you ever see that, that's what that stands for. So I've got a fused source, same setup on pin 87. I've got pin 87A populated, which if we're inverting polarity, pin 87A is not used. I've got my blue wire tied into pin 30. And then I've got a red and black lead that I built. This allows you to feed 12 volts and ground, and you can do it either way like we talked about before. So if you want to take a positive signal and make it into a negative output, you would basically do the same thing that we just looked at with this relay, but the opposite. So you would feed a constant ground input to your black wire, a switched 12 volt input to your red wire. So this is what would trigger the relay. And then instead of feeding 12 volts to your red or pin 87, you would feed ground to pin 87. And that would in turn give you a ground output from pin 30. So that will allow you to take a positive input and turn it into a negative output. The vast majority of relay setups, that's what you're doing, is inverting polarity. This is how you would take a negative output from your brain. So say you want to change a POC from being a negative output, which all POCs on our brains are negative outputs, to a positive signal. So that's how you would do it using a relay. The other one that I'll show you real quick that we'll talk about is starter kill. So this is typically what you're going to see. The part number of this that comes in our alarm kits is Easy Lock. This is a very simple 5-pin relay, so a single pole double throw, and this allows you to do your starter kill. So you're going to interrupt the starter wire in the vehicle with this relay. So the green wire that's pre-wired on here is set up for your ignition input, so an ignition input source, positive. The blue wire would be your ground when armed output from the alarm or starter alarm combo. So this relay would be triggered when the system is armed, you have ground here, and when the key is turned on, you have 12 volts here. that's what would open your starter circuit. So you'd use pins 87A and 30 to interrupt that starter circuit in the vehicle when the system is armed. If you connect those two wires, cut the starter wire in the vehicle, connect those two wires to either side of the cut, doesn't matter their orientation, then you would open that circuit. If the system is armed and the ignition is on, then the vehicle will not start. So just some basic relay wiring. There's lots of other things obviously that you can do with relays. The magic in a relay basically happens because the coil never touches the center 3 pins. So we looked at the internal workings of a relay in the last segment. That armature that moves back and forth as the switch never makes contact with that coil. So that's how you keep a circuit isolated. So you trigger it, and center 3 pins of a relay never touch the coil pins. I hope this helps. Have a great day.